Welcome to White People, Black Music, and Liberation. I'm Eric, and I'm here on the journey with you. This is a transmission at the intersection of race, music, and spirituality. It's about moving past the programming and into liberation. Hey, what's up, folks? Eric here. White People, Black Music. Continuing our conversation with Matré, aka Matt Sawaya. The last time we talked about the wound from racism in our society, how that affects black and brown skinned folks, and how that affects us, white light-skinned people, white passing folks. And I just wanted to name something that is important by talking about racism and acknowledging it as a wound. It doesn't mean that racism is the only wound that we're suffering from in our society. As I go about and do my own work, I realize how much classism, for example, is another wound that I have to heal within myself. All these being just different flavors of supremacy, different ways of basically excusing myself to believe that I'm somehow better from other people. It just so happens that racism is a wound that we don't often talk about. And so maybe that's why it's important and we keep talking about it here, but it's by no means the only one. And I'd like to recommend, if that idea resonates with you, that you check out Marie Beecham's podcast, Know Better, Do Better, especially the episode Progressives Need to Learn from Our Mistakes on Anti-Racism. Here's How, August 31st. Because inside of that episode, she really goes deep into how some voices within anti-racism have made it seem as if racism explains everything that's going on in our country. Yeah, I just want to be really clear. Racism is by no means the only supremacy that we suffer from in this country. Okay, so with that, we're going to continue our conversation with Matré about the wound and what may be on the other side of it.
Liberation is a good word, and when we talk about race, for me, because it really, I feel like, authentically describes what my experience around going through this stuff has been, you know? Like I've authentically found a lot more liberation going through this work. And yeah, I'm just curious, like, have you found liberation going through this? And if so, what does that look like? And it's okay if you haven't.
Wow. Would you be open to sharing sort of what a little bit about what the word liberation is for you, or what that brings up for you? What is it? Yeah, what does that liberation feel like? If you feel up for sharing that.
Well, yeah, so this friend of mine who's a Sufi, when he was asked about racism, he said that it's not in our benefit to racism is not in our benefit because it separates us from God. And so it's like our house is divided unto ourselves. And I think that I had a lot more unconsciousness around race for longer in my life. So coming to a place where that has been more something that is like become conscious, like in an earlier iteration of our conversation we were talking about shadow and light and stuff. And so it's like there's tremendous potency inside of the shadow once it's made a part of the psyche, right? So like as I've lived here in Oakland for longer and longer, and like gone through and done more of my work, I've noticed that my relationships with everybody have basically gotten better because of whatever work I've been doing. And so that's been like more liberation, because I can like take in more people's perspectives, and I can, yeah. So it's been like an unequivocally good thing in my life, Matt. And then at the same time, I see how some folks in the United States characterize like racial justice work as if it's a zero-sum game, and as if it's something that white people are being asked to give up for nothing. So it just doesn't really track with my experience.
Yeah.
I think that's where that question's coming from.
Yeah, that's really helpful, man. Thank you. Yeah. And I can relate. Yeah. I think it goes back in a way to something I was saying earlier in the conversation, where I said, this is a collective wound. This is a wound for communities of color in a very direct and and violent and intense way.
Mm-hmm.
This is a wound for friends of mine. This is a wound for family members of mine, and then this is a wound for me as well.
Mm.
And sort of the idea that anyone within this kind of situation
mm-hmm.
is in an unhealthy, is it's living within a society where racism is such a prevalent part of what creates the fabric of the society is unhealthy for everyone in that society.
Yeah. Well said.
It's not good for anyone from a deep level of human wellness.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, from that standpoint, definitely.
Yeah.
Like, and I feel like I'm still very much in it. I'm still in the process of trying to free myself from certain things and transform certain things in myself, heal certain things in myself. But yeah, ultimately, like, it definitely resonates for me, the idea that we all need to get out of this situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's this line from, you familiar with the rapper Brother Ali?
I'm not.
He's a really dope rapper from Minnesota. And I'm not going to quote it right, but he says something in one of his songs where he's talking about the history of racism and slavery in the United States. And he talks about how slave owners and sort of the people in the position of the oppressor's shoes have lost their souls along the way. You know, there's no way to be perpetuating that kind of injustice and not have it be harmful to one's own humanity.
Yeah.
And so, you know, becoming a more and more able to participate in racial justice and well-being in the picture around the question of race is also becoming more and more whole myself.
Yes. 111%, my friend. Yeah.
And I think that, you know, anything that I'm doing that's authentically helping me become more whole in general will help me show up better for the racial justice questions. You know?
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm thinking about the spiritual practice in particular. As I say that, like, whatever inner work I'm doing, if it's authentically working with trying to connect myself with what is more true and what is more aligned with love, and it will put me up against the things that I need to see that aren't love, that I still need to work with and work on. Places where my patterns are still contributing to the challenge, you know, or to the issue, or my fear is still, you know, needing to be worked with in a different way. And yeah, so it's interesting. I mean, I think in a way they go hand in hand. The liberation, from my perspective, like a inner liberation, like participating more and more fully in racial justice or anti-racism means me having to go through more and more growth and transformation that is my liberation, or is me becoming more whole and more well.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. And it's an ongoing journey. You know, I think with all like all of the big deep things in my life, it's like a continuing everyday practice to try to keep seeing whatever in me still needs to be worked with to be able to be more free of my own limitations, fear, patterns, so that I can actually show up for what's needed. And that applies so much to questions around race and racial justice. And I think it applies to everything in my life. Yeah.
Well said, Matt. Man, I don't have much to add to this, but let's keep these conversations going. If any of this stuff in particular resonated with you that you want to hear more of, as always, leave a comment, send us an email, and in the next installment here, we're going to get a little bit more into the nitty-gritty of the spiritual practices that could support this kind of work. So stay tuned for that. Talk soon. I'm Eric, and this has been White People, Black Music, and Liberation. If this message speaks to you and you want to be part of the journey, head to whitepeopleblackmusic.com and let's build a world where liberation is for everyone.